You know, my opponent has offered literally no plan whatsoever to us to move education forward in the state of Washington. I've got a reform plan, literally from the day that child is born to a PhD if that's what they choose to do. How can he suggest that he can reform education when he did, in fact, cut $1 billion from the education budget in our state and said no to the voters who said reduce class size and pay our teachers, and now proposes to cut yet another $1 billion from education? You can't be world class and take $2 billion from education.
Mr. Rossi, 30 seconds, please.
What they call an Olympia cut down there is like when our 7-year-old daughter, little Jillian, comes to me and says, "Daddy, I want a $100 a week allowance." I go, "No, honey, I'm going to give you $5 a week." Then she runs around the neighborhood telling everybody I cut her budget by 95%. That's an Olympia cut. It's money that she wasn't going to get in the first place.
Governor? You know, my mom taught me when I was growing up there were 3 priorities in life: education, education, education. She didn't have a formal education. I was the first in the family to get a college education. And so when I came into office, we began looking at how can we reform, Barbara, the education system in the state of Washington. And let me tell you what we've done. We've said we're not going to be dead last when it comes to early childhood education. Our kids deserve better. We're going to get a world-class early childhood education program in the state of Washington, which we've begun now with a nonprofit called Thrive by 5, one of the pilots right here in Yakima, to show that every child, when they're ready to learn when they hit kindergarten, will succeed in school and succeed in life. To give our children a little bit more boost, we are now implementing all-day kindergarten, making sure that's happening. We're talking about our children's education. And the voters of the state of Washington made it clear. They wanted to reduce class size, and they wanted to pay the teachers. You did neither. You shelved both. You did not fund it. That was to the tune of $1 billion. I have put the money back in the budget to make sure that doesn't keep happening.
Would you support merit pay for teachers? And would you support changing the ratio of student to teacher ratio in classrooms so that there could be more students per teacher in the classroom?
And Governor Gregoire, you'd answer first.
We're already putting in a merit pay system. We put in national board certification, and we're beginning to lead the country because we put in a $5,000 incentive pay, and then if you take that certification and go into a troubled school, another $5,000. Amazingly good things are happening. I want to reduce, I think what you said, the number of students to teacher, which is why I have fully funded the class size initiative, which Mr. Rossi did not fund at all in his budget. I want to make sure that inside that classroom, particularly in those early grades, K through 3, where it's essential, we've given them early childhood education. Now we need to make sure that they're getting the opportunity in a classroom size that they can manage to really get the start they need. If we do that, we won't worry about dropouts out of high school. We won't worry about people getting involved in the criminal justice system or the social service net.
You know, like I said before, I'm the youngest of 7 kids raised in a school teacher's salary. My father loved to teach. He could have done anything he wanted to do with his life. And if there were rewarding a teacher for being successful in the classroom, I think our standard of living would have been higher when I was growing up. We probably wouldn't have had to drink powdered milk. But I tell you what, we have to do this. We have to actually reward our best and brightest and most successful for being successful. We do it every other phase of our life, but we don't seem to do that in education. If you want positive results, you need to reward positive behavior.
Would you consider suspending pay raises to help close the gap?
Okay, then the next answer comes from Ms. Gregoire first. You know, I know we're in tough times, but I know we're in tough times for literally everybody who works across the great state of Washington. And these people, whether they're a state employee, whether they're a teacher, whether they're in the private sector or small or big business, are looking to make sure that they can put gas in their car and buy food for their family, pay for insurance, and send their kids off to school. So one of the things I've made sure that we did was look at how can we get the best qualified teachers in front of those classrooms. Well, you know what? The people spoke. They said we want teachers
teachers to be paid. So unlike my opponent, who did not pay the teachers the COLAs that the voters overwhelmingly passed, I said let's pay them. That's how we can retain and recruit the best in front of those classrooms. And I've also made sure that we gave incentive pay to those who are willing to go out and get board certification. I want to make sure that we have the best state employees, the best teachers, the best local government employees that we can. We've been ranked the best state in the nation in terms of managing state government, along with 2 others. There's something to be said for that. That's because we're treating our employees with respect, and in turn, they're giving us a lot back. Mr. Rossi.
Well, I'm the youngest of 7 kids raised in a school teacher's salary. My dad taught at the Seattle Public Schools for over 20 years at Viewlands Elementary School in North Seattle.
The rebuttal now, the question was about whether you would suspend pay raises for teachers and other state workers. The rebuttal now, Governor Gregoire. Again, my opponent had already suspended the teachers' pay. He, in fact, disregarded the vote of the people when they said they wanted COLAs for teachers. We were one of the worst states in America in terms of teacher pay. How can we expect a world-class education system if we're not willing to pay? How can we expect to deliver the kinds of services to our citizens if we're not willing to pay? But we need to make sure we take into consideration our taxpayers' rights and the employees' rights, and fair to both. That's what I have done. Mr. Rossi.
I think we need to reward our most successful teachers, and that's what I've talked about. If you go to DinoRossi.com, you can see our entire education plan. And if my father had been paid what he was really worth, those 27 years in teaching 5th and 6th grade, he dedicated his life to elementary education. I think our standard of living would have been a lot higher when I was growing up. We probably wouldn't have had to drink powdered milk.
Is your administration going to hold the line on tuition for public universities, and will public schools, K through 12, get more funding? When I came in, there was literally no emphasis on early childhood education. Our K through 12 system was underfunded. The class size initiative had not been funded by Mr. Rossi. The teachers' COLA had not been funded by Mr. Rossi. The doors to higher education were being closed. We aggressively went out of this, and we said, you know what? Our children are entitled to the best early childhood education we can get, and we're the talk of the country because of what we're doing. Mr. Rossi.
Well, I actually come from an education family. When it came time for me to go to college, I went to my father since he was a Seattle public school teacher. I said, you know, Dad, I kind of like to follow in your footsteps. He said, yeah, son, you've been a businessman since you were 7. Go to the school of business. You can always come back on your own terms. Someday maybe I will teach.